The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
If we don't have a trilat, then the fighting continues. And if we do, we have a good chance. I think if we have a trilat, there's a good chance of maybe ending it.
Positive steps at the White House, where peace stands after Ukrainian President Zelensky's second Oval Office visit that stands in stark contrast to his first. Plus, President Trump's D.C. takeover being aided by the states as another governor joins in sending the National Guard to the nation's capital. And later, Hurricane Erin becomes the first major storm in the Atlantic. Who is under evacuation threats and how soon the effects of the storm will be felt here in the United States. This is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you for joining us on your Monday. We begin with a possible pathway to peace discussed at the White House today as President Donald Trump hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy along with several European and NATO leaders. Two main issues continue to be the focus of these meetings. One, ceding land to Russia, and two, enduring security for Ukraine. President Trump says he thinks a deal can finally be within reach.
And I have a feeling you and President Putin are going to work something out. Ultimately, this is a decision that can only be made by President Zelenskyy and by the people of Ukraine working also together in agreement with President Putin. And I just think that's very good things are going to come of it.
But no agreements were made today, and a peace deal still remain elusive. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more on where things stand 72 hours after President Trump's Alaskan summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
A meeting unlike any other at the White House Monday with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and leaders of NATO countries who've come to be known as the Coalition of the Willing.
I believe a peace agreement at the end of all of this is something that's very attainable, and it can be done in the near future.
President Trump and Zelenskyy first meeting one-on-one in the Oval Office in a far better encounter than their February debacle.
You're gambling with World War III.
Zelenskyy calling it their best conversation yet.
And we spoke about very sensitive points. The first one is security guarantees.
And acknowledges territory will be discussed if he and Russian President Vladimir Putin meet. Zelenskyy still walking into challenges with Trump, who, in a late-night social media post, called out Zelenskyy, not Putin, saying he can end the war almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight, adding Ukraine will never get back Crimea or join NATO, two of Putin's top demands. Trump also changing his mind on trying to secure an immediate ceasefire, which Ukraine desperately wants.
I can also understand strategically why, well, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild.
To be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire. Let's work on that and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire.
The Europeans stressing this war must end, but as they say, it must be done the right way.
When we speak about security guarantees, we speak about the whole security of the European continent, and this is why we are all united here with Ukraine on this matter.
President Trump now giving his firmest commitment to date that the United States will be part of securing a post-war Ukraine.
We will give them very good protection, very good security.
Trump is still attempting to organize a trilateral meeting with Putin and Zelenskyy. And if that meeting doesn't happen, Trump says he expects the war will continue. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Police are still searching for two suspects in a weekend shooting in Brooklyn, believed to be gang-related. Authorities say at least 11 people are injured, 3 people are dead. Police say an argument between two men at Taste of the City Lounge early Sunday led to multiple people firing shots. Mayor Eric Adams is asking anyone with information to come forward. A hearing today about whether detainees at Alligator Alcatraz have been denied their legal rights ended without a ruling from the judge. But civil rights attorneys say they have already won a major victory.
The government has caved on the fact that they are now providing bond hearings, and they have designated an immigration court for people who are held at Alligator Alcatraz to be able to seek release from custody. This is a victory for people held at the facility, a victory for civil rights, and a victory for immigrants all over the country.
Before today's hearing, government lawyers granted a court in Miami jurisdiction over legal concerns of the detainees. The judge told the government he expects them not to make any changes to this court without cause. A full ruling of today's hearing is expected soon. In Western Texas, a new immigration detention center has opened at Fort Bliss Army Base. It's slated to hold an initial 1,000 detainees and is expected to reach a capacity of 5,000 by 2027. The Trump administration says it will eventually become the largest federal detention center in the U.S. Critics of the detention center call the facility a shameful chapter in the Army's base history and likened it to the internment camps during World War II. Mississippi is the fourth Republican-led state to send National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. to support President Trump's crime crackdown. The governor posting on X today he's approved the deployment of 200 soldiers. It comes after West Virginia, South Carolina, and Ohio announced that they would send troops. D.C.'s mayor insisting this doesn't make sense.
The numbers on the ground in the district don't support 1,000 people from other states coming to Washington, D.C. You know that.
The Trump administration continues to tout what it's done. Today, Attorney General Pam Bondi said federal officers arrested 137 people over the weekend, bringing the total to over 400 in the past week. Today, the president has re-upped his long-running feud with American elections, promising to bring honesty to the 2026 midterms by targeting mail-in voting. The National News Desk, Matt Gelka reports from Washington.
The president said he's going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots for elections, along with what he called highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines.
It's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it, because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected.
The threats against mail-in voting come after Trump said Russian President Vladimir Putin raised the issue with him.
He said your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting. He said mail-in voting every election. He said no country has mail-in voting. It's impossible to have mail-in voting and have honest elections.
Trump has long claimed without evidence that mail-in voting and voting machines cause widespread voter fraud. It was at the center of his claims that his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden was fixed. But he encouraged supporters last year to use mail-in voting while campaigning.
Whether you vote early, absentee, by mail, or in person, we must swamp the radical Democrats.
Trump's Truth Social post also called states an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes, and said they must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them. Republican Stephen Richer is the former recorder for Maricopa County in Arizona. He became a target of Trump after he defended the accuracy and validity of Arizona's elections before being primaried because of it. Richer says almost everything the president put in his post is wrong or would be a significant waste of time and resources.
I don't know how the president plans to do this. He says he's going to sign another executive order pertaining to election administration. But again, the United States Constitution gives broad authority to the states in terms of the how they want to administer elections. I don't see what the political profit is now.
The president promised an executive order ahead of the 2026 midterm elections, a move that would almost certainly lead to legal challenges. 8 states plus Washington, D.C. allow elections to be conducted entirely by mail.
As we look at a timeline, Matt, do we know exactly when the president plans to do this?
No, not yet, but Trump did say from the Oval Office today that the White House is currently drafting that executive order. It's currently being written. And as far as America being the only country that has mail-in ballots, that's also not true. Dozens of others allow voting by mail, including Russia, which also allows for electronic voting, something that experts say is far easier to manipulate.
Live from Washington, D.C., thank you so much, Matt Gelka.
We are done waiting. We have a quorum. Now is the time for action. We will move quickly, and the schedule will be demanding until our work is complete.
After 2 weeks away from the state Texas House Democrats, they have returned to Austin, and the state House is set to officially reconvene on Wednesday with a second special session. The Democratic lawmakers left Texas rather than voting on new congressional maps for the 2026 election cycle. Those votes will now proceed, but the members say they accomplished their goals. State Representative Gene Wu, Texas House Democratic Caucus Chairman, saying, "We killed the corrupt special session, withstood unprecedented surveillance and intimidation, and rallied Democrats nationwide to join this existential fight for fair representation." California is one of the states threatening to redraw their congressional maps in response to Texas. And today, the legislature is taking up several bills to set up a special election in November to vote on the maps, as well as to fund these elections that will cost millions of dollars for each district statewide.
First reaction in the county was, hey, we need to get started in preparing for this right away, even if we don't know it's going to happen. So we've made some purchases in preparation already in the last 2 weeks.
These districts are counting on the state to provide the money so core services are not cut. The most recent special election in 2021 cost the state $200 million. A federal court has upheld a Biden-era rule forcing telecom companies to notify customers if their information is breached. The court ruled that the Federal Communications Commission did not overstep its authority when updating data breach requirements. Previously, telecoms only had to report breaches to the government. The FCC's current commissioner voted against the Biden-era changes. It's possible trade groups could appeal the case to the Supreme Court. The woman charged with selling Matthew Perry, the drug that killed him, is pleading guilty. Jasmine Senga, known as the Ketamine Queen, is the fifth and final defendant charged in the overdose death of the Friends star. She'll avoid a trial with her plea, which she'll enter in an upcoming hearing. Senga could get up to 45 years in prison. The medical examiner ruled ketamine was the primary cause of Perry's death. Coming up, the impact Hurricane Erin will have on the East Coast this week and the state at highest risk. Then, an update on measles and Legionnaire's disease outbreaks, with one continuing to spread as the other falters. Then, how one farmer says President Trump's tariffs are impacting his business. We'll be right back. Forecasters are warning people on the East Coast about Hurricane Erin. It is expected to produce life-threatening surf and rip currents along much of the coast during the next several days. You can see the rip current risk increases from today to tomorrow, meaning you should stay out of the water. People in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, as you take a look right here, they are under evacuation orders right now. Meantime, tropical storm conditions and coastal flooding are possible there starting on Wednesday. Turning to new developments developments, a major measles outbreak in Texas is declared over. State health officials say there's been no new cases of the virus there in 42 days. Over 750 cases were confirmed in this outbreak, which started in January. 2 young children died and more than 100 people were hospitalized. The Texas cases were linked to outbreaks in Canada, Mexico, and other U.S. states. The death toll from the Legionnaire's disease outbreak in Harlem, New York, has risen to at least 4. More than 100 people have gotten sick from the bacterial disease. Last week, health officials confirmed 12 cooling towers. They tested positive for live Legionella bacteria on 10 buildings, and the bacteria grows in warm water and causes a type of pneumonia. 11 of them have been remediated, although it is not confirmed if these towers are the source of the outbreak. A violent shootout at a Texas immigration detention center is now being linked to what officials say is a secretive far-left network operating out of Dallas. The National News Desk, Kelly Gaskins, joins us with more on that story from Washington.
Officials charging 11 people so far with attempted murder and terrorism-related offenses for the July 4th attack at the Texas immigration facility. We're now learning some of the suspects reportedly first met during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. They also have ties to trans activism. 2 of the 11 arrested for the Alvarado facility attack are transgender. The Texas attack adds to the growing list of politically motivated violence by those on the political left. This past year, immigration protesters have also thrown rocks, bricks, and even cinder blocks at ICE agents in California. Those angry at Tesla CEO Elon Musk's role at the White House and his efforts to cut government spending through DOGE spent weeks violently attacking Tesla dealerships and vandalizing Tesla cars nationwide. Anti-Israel sentiment turned deadly in Washington, D.C. this summer when a pro-Palestine demonstrator shot and killed 2 Israeli embassy staffers just blocks from the U.S. Capitol. Critics noting their support for this violence.
An assassination culture, which is a kind of viral, memified celebration of the death and destruction of anywhere between sort of CEOs, corporate elites, and also politicians.
Last week, New York Magazine published an article celebrating a man who threw a sub sandwich at a Border Patrol agent in Washington, D.C., referring to the man as a folk hero.
Free Luigi!
And after the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, the internet lit up with applause for the murderer, Luigi Mangione.
It's my type.
Max Horder conducted a study of this culture with the Network Contagion Research Institute.
We found a few very interesting things, and one of them was an increasing susceptibility of people who define left of centre to support or condone the killing of either sort of conservative politicians or corporate elites.
Max Horder's report also found 56% of those polled who identified as left of centre politically agreed murdering Donald Trump would be somewhat justified. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
A tentative ceasefire in the Middle East may be on the table. Hamas sources have told Axios they have accepted a deal for a 60-day truce that will see hostages and bodies released in phases. According to the sources, Hamas didn't make any changes to the proposal given to them last month, but Al Arabiya reports there are new conditions demanded by the militant group. Among the demands in exchange for 10 living hostages, Hamas wants Israel to release 140 convicts serving life sentences in Israel and another 60 prisoners with criminal sentences of more than 15 years. For everybody held captive in Gaza, Israel would return 10 militants killed in the war. The new proposal asks for increased fuel, water, and electricity, as well as hospital rehabilitation and debris removal equipment administered by the UN and the Red Crescent. Israeli media says Israel is seeking all hostages to be released with a new deal. Also, we are learning the State Department has a stop on all visitor visas for people from Gaza for now. According to the department, this is happening while officials look into how some temporary medical humanitarian visas were recently issued. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in an interview the move came after outreach from multiple congressional offices. An organization called Heal Palestine says it is distressed by the government's decision. Also, MSNBC, we've learned, is rebranding as part of its corporate split from NBC. The news network is changing its name to My Source News Opinion World, or MS Now for short. It will also remove NBC's peacock symbol from its logo. The cable channel and several others are spinning off into a new business called Versant. Owner NBC Universal announced the split in November, citing struggling ratings. Meanwhile, Newsmax has settled their defamation lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems. The network will pay $67 million over on-air claims that the 2020 election was rigged. In a statement, Newsmax says it stands by its coverage as, quote, fair, balanced, and conducted within professional standards of journalism. Fox News Channel paid more than $787 million to settle a similar lawsuit in 2023. A few superfoods can help boost your kidney health. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares what's on the menu.
Hey there, everybody. You sort of take for granted that these two little organs known as your kidneys function well until they don't. But what we've learned is that there is a lot now that we all can do to keep them healthy for life.
Your kidneys do what this dialysis machine has to do if they don't work: filter waste products out of your blood. If those waste products accumulate, they can shut down the kidneys, raising your risk for the need for a transplant. So to keep them as healthy as possible, getting regular exercise and keeping your weight down makes a difference. So can keeping blood pressure within normal limits.
And just also understanding and knowing your numbers and your family history, because we know that African Americans have a much higher rate of kidney disease than other ethnicities. So just being aware of that and going to the doctor every year.
Foods matter too, says Andy Johnson of Network for Hope. Getting the right nutrients can help slow down the impact of kidney disease. The National Kidney Foundation suggests you get a diet full of antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, brightly colored foods, and foods high in fiber. A few examples of these foods include berries, especially blueberries, salmon packed with protein and healthy fat. Red bell peppers are a food rich in color. Leafy greens such as kale are full of vitamins your kidneys need. And cauliflower or veggies that crunch are packed with powerful fiber.
Now, you may not know that something is wrong with your kidneys without proper function tests. So especially if you have high blood pressure, ask a healthcare provider for early screening and information. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Coming up, a big breakthrough in an armed robbery spree that's terrorized dozens of convenience stores in a major city. We're back in 90 seconds. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Washington, where all suspects in a robbery spree are finally behind bars.
Is the end finally here for one of Western Washington's most vicious, most violent band of robbers? Cops say that is the hope now that the final suspect is in custody.
They would find convenience stores that had multiple people in them and then hold everyone in the store at gunpoint, demanding purses, wallets, and phones.
In just a few weeks last fall, cops say they were responsible for 78 carjackings and armed robberies across the Seattle area, many of them at convenience stores. All of it as Seattle's former interim police chief insisted more needed to be done to hold violent juveniles accountable.
Ben Watley and his family run Watley Farm in Topsom, an organic farm now busy harvesting and selling fresh vegetables, garlic, and organic seedlings. He says farmers in Maine and across America are being hurt by President Trump's tariff war.
I think it's short-sighted.
He says more than ever, farming is a global economy, and to compete, he needs the best tools at the best price.
You know, as a farmer, we're interested in any piece of equipment that can make us more efficient because it's a tough business to make a living in.
On Thursday, John Deere reported third quarter earnings that beat Wall Street estimates. However, the agricultural machinery giant says it took a $200 million hit from global tariffs in the quarter.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Artemis 1.
NASA's Artemis campaign is a bold series of missions to take humans back to the moon. And those astronauts will get there with help from rocket engines made in Redmond.
If we didn't make these engines, then there wouldn't be any sort of orbital maneuvering system. There wouldn't be a way for the crew module to safely come back to Earth. It's really important to us that we make engines that we know are going to work well and work right.
We're told each of the first 3 Artemis missions uses 32 rocket engines produced at the L3 Harris facility in Redmond. NASA representatives paid a visit this week.
So much to do on the moon. We're going there for science. There's scientific discoveries to be made.
Coming up, the definition of mouse jiggler and some of the other words added to the dictionary this year, right after this. The Cambridge Dictionary has over 6,000 new terms this year. You might have heard some of the slang words like tradwife, short for traditional housewife, delulu, short for delusional, forever chemical. That's now listed as well. And mouse jiggler, yeah, that refers to an object or software program that makes someone look like they're working when they're not. Join us tonight as we continue to follow the latest on the Ukrainian leader and Trump meeting this evening. President Trump's new agreements for a face-to-face meeting with both Putin and Zelenskyy.